Pesachim.
Who's the Bechor he has to sponsor?
When is the actual season? Lamb, you're right. We did lamb. This time, do you know?
Oh, right. Have we got a Bechor who needs to
We were
sponsor
in
it?
Poland last year. We played number.
Those three things there.
Yeah.
So do it on a video that you don't want. Let's take that one there.
This time, you know.
Have we got a Bechor?
Yeah,
He was deaf in Manchester.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first game in Manchester.
So do it on a video that you don't want. Let's take that one there.
Where are we going next time?
Being recorded.
It's America.
To
America.
Oh, Dubai. There must be some good oil in Dubai.
Yeah, the bandit that's up there. What's his name to speak of? Apparently he's stuck in Brazil.
Who's stuck in Brazil?
So what's his name? From near Baghdad.
Ah.
He was in Dubai for a chasana.
Wow.
Now he's stuck
A
in
lot to do.
Brazil.
Something more. Oh, we have to some Chesed Modalef 6 lines. Can you take it, Tony? Take this stand away. Sorry. Right. Some Chesed Modalef 6 lines from the top. Meisvei. How many camps do you send the Baal carry out of?
2.
Very good. 2. Who said that? By the way, it was Rabbi Yehuda said, Baal Kem Yishterach Chutz L'Shtei Machnes. That's what we saw, the Samach Zayin with Beis 6 lines from the bottom. The more tried to disprove Rabbi Yehuda from a couple of places without success. Now it's our third and final unsuccessful attempt. Meisvei. This Beis, most of it is clear, but he finishes off with a cryptic comment, and we have to establish what that comment is, and thereby establish what Rabbi Yehuda is saying. Meisvei. Mitzvah Chomom Ezov. And Mitzvah is worse than Zov. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Zov is sent out to how many camps?
2.
2 and Mitzvah from 3. Very good. The Zov Chomom Mitmei Meis. The Zov is more Chomom Mitmei Meis. Is that true? Mitmei Meis sent out of 1. The Zov sent out 2. Very good. Yotzo Baal Keri. Baal Keri is excluded. Shetmei Meis Chomom Mimenu. That Mitmei Meis is worse. It's more stringent. Now what does that mean? My Yotzo, what does it mean? Lav does not mean Yotza Michlal Zov or Bo Lichlal Tmei Meis, meaning that even though Zov and Baal Keri are similar, in the sense, what way are they similar, Zov and Baal Keri?
Discharge.
Both come from a Tumah Mikufo, both from a discharge. So therefore, even though they're both similar, nevertheless, Yotza Baal Keri is excluded, meaning he's taken out of the equation. And then why is he taken out of the equation? The answer is with the following logic. Etmei Meis, how long does it take him to become Tohoi? 7 days. And a Baal Keri only takes 1 day. So we see that Etmei Meis is more Chomor. And even Etmei Meis only sent out of 1. So Baal Keri sent out of 1 only. Again, let's say very slowly. Mitzvah is more Chomor than Zov, 3-2. Zov is more Chomor than Etmei Meis, 2-1. Yotzo Baal Keri Shetmei Meis Chomor Mimenu. The Gemara now haven't been understood. Baal Keri is excluded from Zov. That Zov is sent out of 2, Baal Keri out of only 1. And the reason is because if Tmei Meis, which takes 1 day, should only be sent out of 1. Oh, okay, that would be a question on this Beis, but that would be an understanding in the Beis, which would then come out that Baal Keri, how many do you send him out of?
1.
And that's a contradiction to Rabbi Yehuda who said 2.
Why at that stage do you understand that?
Because Baal Keri is lighter than Zov in the sense that Baal Keri is not Matamid Mishkav, Mishkav, and other things. Zov's got certain stringencies.
Zov's got potential to be more than that.
That's right. Zov's got potential. Baal Keri doesn't. So Yotze Baal Keri Shetmei Meis Chomor Mimenu. My Yotze Lav Yotze Michlal Zov Bo Lechlal Tmei Meis. So Tmei Meis Chomor Mimenu. Or Mutter Machne Levio. Lo Yises more. That's not the meaning of this Beis. Yotza Mimachne Tmei Meis v'nich Machne Zov. Nichnas Machne Zov. Ve'af agav the Tmei Meis Chomor Mimenu. Meaning that the Beis is telling us that generally speaking, we go according to the principle whichever is more goes from more out of camps. Here we don't do that. Why don't we do that? Because we say to ourselves, even though to be makes is chomer than zakei, in a set in this equation, that the more chomer you are, the what's the reason? I think more explains the matter. The reason, why do we know that Balkari has to be sent out of the camp? So anybody remember, how do we know Balkari has to be sent out of the camp? What? Which word? In which possible? So therefore we say, since Balkari was learned from Kol Zov, we keep to the rule that has the same as Zov. And it comes out like this, therefore, now how will the world understood? Balkari is excluded from Zov, the proof being to be Meses Chomomenu. And now we say, no, Balkari is excluded from the general rule that whatever is more Chomo is sent out to more camps, even though to be Meses more Chomo. Nevertheless, we go according to the rule that you compare it to what it is most similar to. And Kol Zov was referring to the halacha of Balkari. So Balkari has the same thing as Zov. And that's how we pass. So Balkari has to go out of two camps, and Zov out of two camps, and earlier Tmei Meis and Tmei Shel is out of one camp. It says it go like this. Tani Tani Kavod Rabbi Yisroel Bavdimi. Somebody was speaking for the Yisroel Bavdimi, and he was bothered that the Torah says two psukim regarding sending somebody out of the camp. Two psukim. Why do you have to have two psukim? And it's talking about a Balkari. So what's the two psukim for? One, to tell you that you have to go out to Machne Shechina, and one to tell you have to go out to Machne Levir. That's why you have to have two psukim. Send him out of the camp, send him out of the camp, one out of Machne Shechina, one out of Machne Levir. The problem is that the psukim that he uses, Yisroel Dimi points out to him, are incorrect. So let's read very carefully. For Yotzal Mechutz Machne, let him go out of the camp, so Machne Shechina. Lo yovo yotecha machne, don't go into the camp. Another pasuk, zumachne levir. Mikane balkeri sheyetze chutz l'shtei machnos. They ask out of two camps. Omale, he said to him that your reading is incorrect. Why? The first one, which says v'yotzo, get him out, is referring to get him out of machne shchina. If he leaves machne shchina, where is he? Very good. As you walk out machne shchina, and then it says lo yovo yotecha machne, don't go into the camp. What do you don't go into the camp? He's already in the camp. It should have said v'yotzo again. Lo yovo yotecha machne does not fit if the pasuk is about machne levir. Again, he's not arguing that there are two psukim, and because of the two psukim, that should teach us that Balkari has to go out of two camps. He's arguing that the language of the pasuk does not fit in with the way you explained it. The pasuk says, "Go out of the camp." You said that's machne shechina. Don't go into the camp. It's machne levir. What do you mean? Don't go into the camp. Which camp? He's already in machne levir. Don't go in. You should say go out. The Gemara now brings two versions of how he asked the question. The Mefarshim explained there's no difference in the question. It's only how he phrased it. He hasn't yet gone in a pikte. You're taking him out. That means he hasn't yet. The pasuk is telling you don't go in, but you're telling him that he has to get out, but he's already in. He hasn't yet come out. Alte, you consider him as if he's in. He's not yet in. It's the same question, just different phrasing. That means like this. He's saying to him, the pasuk says, don't go into the camp, but he's already in the camp. So the pasuk, you can't say to somebody, don't go in, when he's already there. First you have to tell him, get out, and then you say to him, don't go in. You do like this. Mechutz lamachan is referring to the second pasuk, is referring to Zumachne. Sorry, the first, the pasuk which says, go out, mechutz lamachan, Zumachne shchina. Zumachne levir. Sorry, Zumachne levir. Lo yovu toich machne, Zumachne shchina. The way the pasuk works, Shonim explained is like this. The pasuk is referring to somebody standing in machne levir. You got to picture like circles, right? You've got inner circles and the outer circles, and even further circles. You've got sometimes circles of life, right? As during the chinuch course, where every person has their own circle. Many times you get irritated, it comes out because somebody's invaded your circle. It's very interesting, right? There's this concept of a circle. Somebody invades your circle, right? It's called machne shchina, machne levir, machne Yisroel. Somebody in machne levir, we say to him, get out of the camp. Now, he's got two ways to get out. Which are the two ways to get out? One towards machne shchina, right? Let's go further in, and one to go to machne Yisroel. Says the next pasuk, don't go into the camp. Meaning, don't go into Machne Shechina, go that direction. That doesn't make any sense. If we're telling somebody to get out of Machne Levio, surely it would be obvious that we're asking him to go out to Machne Yisroel. Why do the second pasuk? Again, originally the Gemara used the first pasuk telling Machne Shechina, the second pasuk telling Machne Levio. The Gemara says you can't do that because the second pasuk says don't go in, and this person is already in it, so you can't say to him don't go in. It's already in it. What? The pasuk is as if he's already out because it's telling him don't go in, but really he's not yet out because the pasuk says but he's at the moment he's already in. The pasuk says go out to Machne Shechina, which means he's already Machne Levio, and the pasuk says lo yovo Machne, which is mashma he's already out, but he's not yet out because in fact he's actually still Machne Levio. It's a trick of the language more than anything else. So the Torah explains that had the Torah only said one pasuk, then you would have said that the pasuk is referring to Machne Shechina. Go out of the camp refers to Machne Shechina. Since the Torah says two psukim, so we explain like this: go out of the camp is referring to Machne Levio. Don't go into the camp is telling you which direction to go. Oh, it's obvious to tell you which direction to go. No, because if it won't tell you don't go in the camp, then you would then use the original pasuk to tell you to go out to Machne Shechina. That means you're right that once you establish the pasuk is referring to Machne Levio, the second pasuk is obviously doesn't need to tell you not to go to Machne Shechina. But what the second pasuk does is it tells you to establish that the first pasuk is talking about somebody in Machne Levio, and we're telling him get out of Machne Levio and not out of Machne Shechina because that already you know. So that's what it says. Ela ema b'chutz Machne Machne Levio le'ov techa Machne Machne Shechina. Mask Rabbi ema David Machne Shechina v'lav lo ba'aseh v'lo yisaseh. Whenever we have two psukim telling us a similar concept, who tells you that it's telling you go out of two camps? Maybe it's telling you go out of one camp, but aseh na lo yisaseh. Answers the Gemara. Im kein name kov yotzer mechutz lamachane v'lo yovei el toich. The pasuk could have stopped the word al toich. Go out of the camp and don't go in. Ha machane lomali. If I say you go out of the camp, don't go in. What am I saying? Don't go into where? Into the camp. Because I said to you, go out of the camp, don't go in. Where do I mean don't go in?
The camp, you don't say don't go into the other place.
If I wouldn't say anything else, you would already assume I mean don't go into the camp, because that's what I said. Go out of the camp, don't go in. What does it mean go out of the camp, don't go in? Obviously don't go into the camp. Why do I have to say the word machane twice? Ha machane lomli shmam nolitin machane acheres is a different kind of machane. The Maisa, this more is very subtle in the Lashonis, but what comes out of Maskona is like this. The Torah tells us Locha that a Baal Keri is mechuyev to go out of two different camps, Machne Shechina and Machne Levio. That's how we pass them. And it's not an aseh na lo yisaseh, it's just allowed to have to go out to both camps. Now the Mishnah tells us that if El Pesach is a Shabbos, we only do the barest necessities on Shabbos. What's the barest necessities? We shecht and we clean the intestines. Why do we clean the intestines? Because otherwise the korban will go off. The Gemara's got a small machlokas as to how you can clean the intestines. Says, well, my michu kova, what do you do? You make a hole. The intestine is basically like a very long pipe, and you make a hole in it, and then it makes it come out. You go the nofak agagut luchke de sakina. You take a knife and you scrape inside the intestines and you scrape it out, all the dirt which is inside. Rashi explains that according to the first shad, michui kova means you pierce it with a knife. So what does the word michui, how does the word michui come to mean to pierce with a knife? Where does the word michui mean to pierce a knife? Rashi gives two explanations. One is timche zecha amolik, this is bashva amolik. Timche means to destroy, to annihilate. So piercing with a knife is a form of destroying the intestines. That's one pshat Rashi says. Another pshat is michui means dissolve. When you pierce it with a knife, the dirt inside starts dissolving and coming out. According to the second pshat, the michui krovov, how to do michui krovov, you scrape out the dirt with a knife. So then we've got a question, what does the word michui got to do with scraping it out with a knife? That's the Gemara's question. The fact that Gemara only asks the question according to the second pshat is why Rashi has to explain to us according to the first pshat how michui works. According to the first pshat, michui works by either piercing it or by dissolving it through the piercing. But according to the second pshat, that michui means to scrape it. Where do we see it? Says the Gemara like this: Omar Baloza, my Talmud de Chir Barav. How does a Chir Barav see the word michui to mean to clean it out with a knife, to scrape it out? Tichsiv. V'charvois meichim. Meichim means horrible things like dirt. The ruins of meichim gave him yochelu. People who are gavim, meaning sojourners, people who move from place to place, will eat it. My mashva, what does the pasuk mean? Meichin means dirt. The ruins of dirt, meaning the shoim, will be inherited by tzadikaya yachsanun. Tzadikim will inherit it. Why are tzadikim called gavim? Why is a tzaddik called a gav? What's the word gav?
Stranger.
A stranger. Why is it gay? Tzaddik called a gay? Because a tzaddik looks at this world as if he's a total stranger. He doesn't settle in this world. He realizes this world is only a transit place for the next world. Rashi says this. And it comes out an interesting thing. No, Rashi, sorry. I saw it somewhere else. Maybe I'll show like this. That is the famous story. I just saw Bitterman saying a very similar story. Now it gave me chizuk about 3-4 weeks ago. Something there's a still making extension, and one of the neighbors was getting his light a bit blocked, and they said to him, "Why are you not making a big fuss?" He says, "I'm moving anyway." "Ah, you're moving. That's why you're not making a big fuss." "And where are you moving to?" "I'm moving upstairs. I'm moving to Shemaim." It's a very good line. No, Chaim famous story. Where's your luggage? Where's your luggage? The answer is that he's only traveling. It's a good point, but sometimes you get a door which doesn't close properly, or the child colors on the wall. If you don't realize that you're moving, you get yourself very, very upset about it. We're only moving anyway. Somebody once told me nobody ever lives 1,000 months in the same house. So it seems it never happens. Because 1,000 months means living 80 something years in the same house. What?
That'd be our business.
That's a good point. Anyway, so now that we established the word meichim means horrible things, so now we can understand, going back to modern Gemara to finish it off. But the Gemara explains. So michui krovov means the dirt of the kirbayim, you get it out. Now that we mentioned the pasuk, which is referring to la'asid lavi Mashiach, what the Gemara does is goes off on a tangent. It talks a lot about Gadata. So go Gadata now. The pasuk, that same pasuk, finishes off v'rou kvosim kedovom. And sheep, actually starts off like that, and sheep will graze kedovom. The simple explanation is that sheep will graze in the normal manner. Dibras b'nei Adam means the normal habits of people. Dibras is a minhag. That means sheep will graze at the peaceful minhag. The Gemara explains, what does that mean? Like it's spoken about them. What does that mean? That the pasuk says that not only will we graze when Mashiach comes, we'll even be able to inherit that which the goyim, the ruins of the goyim, like Mordechai Tzaddik, took over Haman's house. So it was the ruins of Haman Mordechai took. Says the Gemara, without a vav. So the second half of the pasuk is explaining the first half. That it's a separate vav and always means it's another thing. So the pasuk says two things. They'll graze sheep like they've spoken. V'chovos and chovos bechim. V'chovos bil sachrit kama. Ela marav k'tav Chanan marav asidim tzadikim sheyachyu sameisim. When Mashiach comes, every tzaddik will have the capability of doing tchias sameisim. Ksivacha v'ro kvosim k'tav. And we dash the exer the word v'ro. Ro means to graze. Now, who came from Bashan and who came from Gilad? Bashan is Elisha, Abomina Bashan. Elisha came from Bashan. Elisha ben Shaphat. Elisha's father was called Shaphat, and he lived in Bashan. Elisha ben Shaphat, Gilad so this. The pasuk says, those who are sheep, meaning tzaddikim, or grazing peacefully when Mashiach comes, will have the ability of v'ro. V'ro is the same word used by Eliyahu and Gilad. Kedovom, like they used to do. Just like Eliyahu and Elisha was able to mechayim meisim, so too every tzaddik will be able to do so when Mashiach comes. Mashal says, why does the Gemara use the words Bashan Megillot? That means, why do we call Elisha and Eliyahu after the names of where they came from? So he answers, because they came from towns which are not such important towns. It teaches that even Chutz La'aretz, it says, that even tzaddikim of Chutz La'aretz will be able to mechayim meisim. Another thing it says, it's strange, it says that Elisha is mentioned before Eliyahu, after Eliyahu was the Rebbe of Elisha. It says the answer is because if you know, Elisha was mechayim 2 people, Elisha brought 2 people back to life, Eliyahu only 1. So in this particular context, Elisha was greater. So when Mashiach comes, everybody, every tzaddik will have the capability to be mechayim meisim those that he wishes. He said a joke that there are some people that just love to go to Kavon. So once they'll be tchias and meisim, what will they do? There'll be no Kavon to go to. So they'll go to the ones. No, they'll go to the ones that haven't been brought back to life. Anyway, opposite natural. We're top second of the wide line. I see the tzaddikim shechiu meisim shenema. Odeshu zakenim was zakenim. This is a famous pasuk that's become a song. The ish mishanto biyodo. Each person will have the stick in his hand. We're Yomi from old age. Now the stick reminds us of which stick? The stick of Elisha. If you remember, how did Elisha attempt to do tchias meisim? With his stick. And you put my sticks. You see that they're all carrying sticks. It's to teach us that when Mashiach comes, everybody will be able to mechayim meisim with this stick. All asks a tradition. Death will be forever gone. The pasuk says when somebody dies at the age of 100, we will say he died in his youth. What does that mean if we say that somebody dies at the age of 100, he died in his youth? That people will be living so long that somebody who dies at the age of 100 will be considered a young man. So that's a contradiction. On one hand, you've got one pasuk that says people will never die. On the other hand, you've got a pasuk saying that when people die at the age of 100, they'll be considered young, meaning that people will live to 500-600 years. It says, well, Kasha can be Yisroel, can be Yidden will live forever, Goyim will die by old age. Why would there be any Goyim? What do you need the Goyim for? And it's more Dichsiv, 2,800. The Gemara answers, that the Goyim will be your shepherds, your vineyard collectors, and your people who harvest your produce. So those people will live till old age, but the Yidden will live forever. Rav Chisda Yomi, he asked the contradiction as well. The moon will be embarrassed, the sun will be ashamed. Why? Because what will happen is the sunlight that will exist will be so powerful that in comparison, the light that the sun and the moon provide will be puny, will be nothing compared. And another pasuk says that the moon will shine much bright. The moon will be as bright as the sun, and the sun will be 7 times 7 greater than it is today. Sorry, 7 times 7 times 7 greater than it is today, which is how much? 343. I looked it up earlier. I worked out 343. 7 times 7 is 49. So one pasuk says the sun and the moon will be embarrassed because it'll be such great light, and the light of Hashem. And here we say that the sun and the moon will suddenly become very powerful. And so we won't have any light from the sun and the moon, only from Hashem. In Mashiach days, the sun and the moon will get more powerful. Shmuel says, and the Rambam passes like this, Shmuel, that when Mashiach comes, there will be no changes in nature. If there's no changes in nature, so then how does he explain these 2 psukim? So Gemara says, in the camp of the Shechina, there'll be only the light of Hashem. In the camp of the Tzaddikim, there'll be the sun and the moon will be more powerful. Here we see, and this is something which the Rambam himself in the Sefer Shah Gmul of the Ramban go at great length, that there's going to be different stages of Schar. There'll be Moisa Mashiach, and then there'll be Olam Haba. It's 2 separate stages. And Olam Haba will be much, much, much greater than the Moisa Mashiach. The Moisa Mashiach will not have any physical change at all, like the Rambam says. All that will happen is that the world will recognize that Shmuel is in charge. There'll be no wars, and everybody will wish to serve Klal Yisrael. But actually, rules of nature will not change.
Everyone's going to die. Why is it
very good.
People still get ill.
No, actually, even better. The Gemara earlier, when it talks about the difference between somebody dying at the old age of 500-600 and 100 be young, and somebody dying, never died, the Gemara answered, one is Yid and one is Goyim. The Gemara did not then follow up with the question, but wait a second, Shmuel holds to be no changes in the rules of nature. Why did the Gemara not continue with this question? Here, the Gemara asks the continuation that, wait a second, I don't understand. What about the change? No, of changing. And then the Gemara never asked the kasha from Shmuel. Shmuel was only asked on the later Gemara of the sunlight becoming more powerful, but not in the visual. The answer is that a person should live forever is not to change the rules of nature. Why? Or the Rishon was meant to live forever. So therefore, it's only a kasha on the next Gemara. But the fact that we live forever is not to change it. So when Mashiach comes, people will can live forever. Only the fact that's not to change the nature. The Gemara's kasha is only in the rules of next. Was somebody discussing? Okay. It says Yomi. He asks the contradiction. By the way, I saw something he said like this, that the Gemara's legend says very, very briefly that when Mashiach comes, every single tree, even trees that don't produce fruit, will produce fruit. Right? The Gemara says this. Furthermore, the Gemara says that when Eretz Yisrael will become a land full of fruit, that's a symbol that Mashiach's on his way. What's the idea? Because Eretz Yisrael is like a land which is dead. It was in the days 200 years ago, it was a dead land. It comes back to life, it's like a form of Tchias HaMesim. And he says that's the same idea that Tzaddikim Rosilov will be able to Mechai Mesim, because it's a form of a rebirth of life. It's a rebirth of life. That is the form. It's like a whole new Shech, it's a whole rebirth of life, which is really the whole idea of Tu B'Shvat, by the way. This is today's stuff is Tu B'Shvat stuff. The idea of Tu B'Shvat is the beginning of when we see that new life coming into this world. So that is why when Mashiach comes, there'll be a rebirth, a land will be reborn. And nowadays, it's a reborn land. It's full of, it used to be a dead land, now it's become one of the main exporters of fruit. Oh, very good. So therefore the same thing. It's a rebirth of life. I'll make people die and bring them back to life. And I'll make people ill and make them better. If it makes people back to life, will you not make people better? Why is it possible to say bring people back to life and make heal people better? Obviously, if you bring people back to life, make people better. Meaning that just like when you heal somebody, who are you healing? The one that got hurt not well. So too, the ones he brings back to life would be the ones that were put to death. Meaning like this. There's two ways to understand the pasuk. I'll make people die and bring back to life. You could understand, I'll make some people die and some people come back to life, like nowadays. Some people die and some people are born every day. And if that's the case, you'd have no proof for Tchias HaMesim. But the pasuk finishes off, I make people die and live, and I make people ill better. Just like when we talk about making people ill better, we're referring to the same people that become not well, become better. So too, the first half of the pasuk, which is referring to those who die, come back to life, is referring to the very same people. And from here is a mekor for Tchias HaMesim. It's pasuk in Nazir, right? That the pasuk is saying that I put people to death and put people to life. It's not different people. What's the proof? Because the end of the pasuk says those who are ill I make better, and it's not two separate people. Says the Gemara. You might fall death by one, life by another, like nowadays. That's the reply against those who hold those first, those who are dead are bring back to life. Meaning that those who will die, when they come back to life, will come back to life with all the blemishes they had when they died. And then Hashem will heal. So it's two stages of Tchias HaMesim. Look at the bottom Rashi. In this page, there's Rashi on both columns. The last Rashi those who are blind or lame or dumb, they'll come back to life. Suddenly, Piseach. That means that's right. First there'll be Tchias HaMesim, and then there'll be a healing. I've got to say for the Munah L'Tichya, which is a very, very interesting sefer. I bought it because it's got all the halachas of Tchias HaMesim. Fascinating sefer. Let's say you marry a woman and she dies, and then you marry another woman. About Tchias HaMesim, which one will you be married to? Or a woman should be married to two men. You can't have a woman married to two men. And what happens? It got all kinds of halachic shadows of Tchias HaMesim in Mekuros. I bought it. Unfortunately, I've never had time to read it properly. It's not easy, safe to read. Oh, he asked that as well. But from this Gemara, it's mashma that they'll be better, they'll be healed.
For ages in the known,
Oh, okay, there it is. Back to Chalavos. What? I didn't catch your car here. Let's say two men. Let's say one married to two men. So it should be only married to the second one, not to the first man. Yeah. He discusses it, all the kinds of halachic shaylas regarding Tchias Beis. Back to Chalav v'chulu. Top of some Chesed Beis. The halacha is you're allowed to sacrifice the fat. Now, the fat on Shabbos. Now, are you mechuyev to do it that day? No, you could do it that night. Tanya Mabshimman Boyu Ve'ei Kamel Chaviva Mitzvah B'Shai, how precious the mitzvah is in its right time. Shekter Chalav Ibam Dorim Kshem Kol Halaylo. They're mutter all night long. We don't wait for night, but we do it straight away on Shabbos. We're doing Shabbos to do a mitzvah that could be done after Shabbos because it's a chashivus to do a mitzvah in its right time. From here we learn chaviva mitzvah b'shaito. A person has to try his best to do a mitzvah at his right time. This whole next Gemara, we don't need to really do it because we had it in Eruvin. I'm sure you remember it all, only 2.5 months ago. That the Gemara there asks the question that here the Mishnah talks about cutting a wart off, which is forbidden, and there the Mishnah says it's permitted. It is permitted in the Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara asks a contradiction, so we'll just do it very easily. I'll ask you a contradiction. You should put your hand over it, Moshe, and just read it out. Yes. What do you say? You think you could do it? You're allowed to cut a wart off the Beis Hamikdash, not in the rest of the country. And if you do it with a vessel, with a keli, can also. So you see clearly that it says, and the Beis Hamikdash, you're all allowed to cut off a wart. So why now Mishnah say not allowed to? Answers one of the man said, when a wart is dry, it's no longer part of the skin. And therefore, since it's no longer part of the skin, if you've got very part with a scab, so that's mutter, so you're allowed to. But if it's moist,
why would we have had to take it away? Leave it on then.
You can't use a Kolon Pesach while it's got a wart on. So, yeah, it's still a mum. It's still a mum. It's still it still doesn't look so nice. Oh, so therefore, if it's dry, you're allowed to. If it's moist, it's part of it is forbidden. The same thing you got by geizes, for example, the pieces of skin which are completely apart from your body, to put them off is not geizes. It's the ones which are still attached, which is geizes. It depends. By your hand is permitted. With a keli, with a knife, it's forbidden. Rasha's reason why a keli is forbidden is because it is slightly more nearer kimolocha. It's nearer kimolocha. It's much more similar to molocha. Says the Gemara. Now each one, the question is, why didn't you say that on the reminder? Why didn't you just say that both are talking about the hand? It crumbles, meaning that you don't need a Mishnah to tell us. Since it's just a dried out skin and it crumbles off, that's obviously permitted and for that you don't need. Why didn't he answer? It depends if you do it with your hand or with a keli. If the Mishnah is talking about a keli, then our Mishnah is not adding anything to the Mishnah there because the Mishnah already said in bekeli can also. That means if the whole Chiddush of our Mishnah is that we're talking about the keli and that's why it's also, what's the Mishnah adding? The Mishnah in Yehuda already told us. Says more v'idach. There's still a Chiddush la Mishnah. Hoditoni keli hocha pluktu to bless b'shor / we know. The purpose of our Mishnah is not to tell us the Chiddush that by a keli is forbidden. The purpose of our Mishnah is to tell us the machlokes of Lezer and Bishua, that what is Rabbi Lezer's shitta, that you're all allowed to do it, and the Bishua shitta is that you're not allowed to do it. So that either Chiddush Rabbi Mishnah is not allowed to do machlokes of Lezer and Bishua, or they're not allowed to do it bekeli. On Rabbi Lezer, umayim shchita v'chulu. Very briefly, we're going to now discuss this for quite a long time. A machlokes of Lezer and Bishua, are you allowed to cut a wart of an animal of a common Pesach on Shabbos? Rabbi Lezer holds it says mutter, Rabbi Shah holds it says asa. Rabbi Lezer's main argument is that cutting a wart off, which is only asa midrabanan, should surely be mutter if already shchita, which is asa minator, you're allowed to cover chimah doing a drabanan. And the basic answer of Rabbi Shua is that shchita is absolutely necessary. Masha'enkin, cutting off the wart, you could have done it before Shabbos. Omar Rabbi Lezer. So one of the proofs of Leza and Vishra discuss is that on Yom Tov, you're allowed to cook, but you're not allowed to do Yisroel D'Rabbanan. Says Isaiah that Yisroel D'Rabbanan is forbidden, and cooking is permitted. So Rabbi Shua replied that what's Rabbi Leza's response is that cooking is always short, there's no mitzvah to it. I'm talking about doing mitzvahs, you're talking about doing something which is not a mitzvah, just something which is permitted. Rabbi Shua letamei dom asimchas Yom Tov nami mitzvah is also a mitzvah. The Tanya of Leza Oima. Einu le'adam b'Yom Tov ela oichel v'shoisa or yoshev v'shona. But Leza holds you can either choose to eat and drink the entire day of Yom Tov, or learn the whole day. You can't split it into two. But Leza holds you've got to choose. What is your Yom Tov going to be? A day of learning or a day of eating? Rabbi Shua chalkeyu chetzel achila v'shtir v'chetzel v'esamet. I used to have a friendship with a son called Beis Salman, Matzil Salman's son. He lives in Kiryat Sefer. Lost shaykhs over the years. He used to shmooze each other quite a lot. He said to me once that every Yom Tov, his father called him Matzil Salman Shtita. He showed him to look it up. There's a Rambam that writes Gabalchas Yom Tov that you have to split the day in half, right? Half for Hashem, half for yourself. So Rambam works out that the meal of Yom Tov should take how long? Yeah, you got 12 hours. Steve said show there's 12 hours, 6 hours. Rambam writes that your Yom Tov meal should take you 6 hours along. He tried to show him the chashivus of how important Yom Tov meal is.
You can't argue that the meal is partly for Hashem, partly for yourself.
Because 6 hours is for your meal and 6 hours for Hashem.
Same, but the actual meal itself.
It's mashma, not. Give some idea of what I said to him that, it doesn't mean to me that much because after an hour and a half, 2 hours, people get tired. That's why you have to have the 2,800 servants. And that's what the Mama writes. No, because then when you get to the 12 hours, 12 hours is the eating. What?
I learned for 6 hours.
No, the Mama says you learn for 6 hours, a meal for 6 hours, the rest of the day is for everything else. Okay. I say, it says, what might be the both the same possible? The Yom Tov for Hashem. Says so you got a contradiction. Is Yom Tov for you or Yom Tov for Hashem? Rabbi Shua split it. Chetzel Hashem, Chetzel Lachem. So Machlokes, what's the correct way to treat Yom Tov? We pass him. You should split it half. But Rabbi Lezer's shit is you don't split it half. It's either Kulel Hashem or Kulel Lachem. Abam Simon, the Simon is for all the different people mentioned. The Gemara says so you've got Rabbi Loza with the Ayin, and then you've got Rabbi with the Beis, and the Mem is meant to be a Samach, and it's a Yosef. You have to read it Abbas. That's the way to it. Okay. Oh, Loza, Kol Moedebad says we don't know Lochem. Everybody agrees that Shavuos you have to have a meal. My time Yomi Shnisna Boy Torah, it's a day that was given Torah. Since it's a day that was given Torah, so therefore you have to have a nice meal on Shavuos. Pesach you don't have to. Sukkot. Yeah, they say it's referring to 3 days. Yeah, I shall say that. Okay. So now look at Rashi. This is a very important Rashi. It's really to do with Shavuos. But if you've got the ability to do it, but I don't forget this more on Shavuos time. Rashi says, "B'ino nami lochem." Look at Rashi's Kedatisi. Sheyismach boy b'machol v'mishta. You have to on Shavuos rejoice with eating and drinking. Lahavo is to show, to display shenoyach that is happy umekubon and acceptable yomzeli yisor of Torah boy. On Shavuos you celebrate that you got the Torah. I once said this on Shmuel Shapiro. It's a very very sharp lashon. Some people think that Shavuos is a harsh day you have to sit and learn the whole time, etc. But they don't celebrate the fact that they got the Torah. Give a moshel, you've got a couple, day of the chasna. What's really marriage about? A commitment to each other. The wife will look after the husband will look after the wife, the husband will work and provide the parnasa, the wife will cook and clean, wherever it may be. Imagine during the chasna you find the couple are not there. And the chasna has gone to work, and the wife's gone to clean, do a wash. You say, what's going on? They say, we want to show our commitment. Because this is what we're going into, so we want to show straight away. Would you be impressed? No. Because now is the time to celebrate how happy you are that you've got this commitment. A person on Shavuos who does not have lochem, he may be learning very nicely, but he's not showing that he's rejoicing with the fact that he got the Torah. So on Shavuos, a person is obligated to find a way to rejoice. I mentioned this in the Shiur. What did it? I said about children, what is exciting for you to find? It's very hard nowadays. Not so easy to find something which is a way to rejoice, to make something special. It's spoiled. But it's very nice Rashi. You have to show that you're rejoicing that you got the Torah. It's a nice marshal. Okay. Omar Rabba kol meid b'Shabbos. My time across the Shabbos in Shabbos as well. Omar Rabba kol meid b'Purim. It's mamish exactly 30 Yomi. It's 30 days before Purim. So today's daf is introduction to Purim. Everybody agrees on Purim. So if you decide to learn the entire Purim without stopping, you're not doing the right thing. You're supposed to stop at least for some of the time to eat something. Yes, you can't spend the entire day learning. No. You have to spend a few minutes rejoicing. You have to spend a few minutes eating. You can't just spend the whole day learning. I don't know, maybe we do our days of celebration. My tama, you may miss the simcha. There were more paskins twice that a person should limit a tiny bit his learning and eat. Once on Yom Kippur, once on Purim. That a person should, should learn a little bit less than usual in order to be able to get to his learning. Okay. He fasted the entire round. The Bama at Salta on Shavuos 8, or Purim on Purim, Mali Yom Kippuri, and Yom Kippur. 3 days a day, Yom Kippur, Purim, and all ask the kasha, how could he fast on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Maybe 8 at night. They all discuss what was his shitta, whether he held that, like the Belezer, that he held that you could choose to make the whole day La Hashem, and that's not a problem. It says, well, why those 3 days? So it says, Atzeres, Hashem gives a Torah, Puya, Nemish to the Simchitzit. My name of the Kippur, the Tani Chir Baram, Difte, Vedis, Vaslav, Shesech, V'Tishra Chodesh, you should fast from the 9th. The Chir V'Tishra, Misanim, Balebasim, Misanim. And if you do it as if you fast 9th and 10th of Yosef, Yomidad Salt on Shavuos Omar, of the Egla Tilsa make me a calf which is a third. So different explanations. Rashi says the third calf which is born is the best, because the mother, when it's the first, second is young and not strong, and the third one is best. Others say it's a third of its growth. It's the best kind of meat. Oh my Yomi. The Kogoim, if not for this day, Kama Yosef Kibashuka, how many people called Yosef in the market? Rav Sheshes called Dosin Yomin every 30 days, Mahadele Talmudik, who do Chazon, all that he learned. But Toli Vekoi Ibadadashi, he would hang himself on the door hinges. Omar, he would say, he would stand on the door hinges, Chadoi Nafshoi, Loch Kroi, Loch Tanoi. Rejoice, rejoice, because for you I've learned Mishnah. It's a beautiful, beautiful Ben Yehuda. Why did he hang on the door hinges? Hey, what was he doing hanging on the door hinges? He says like this. Sometimes you see it. Sometimes you have very, very heavy door. It's impossible to move. If it's on a hinge, especially he says if there's 2 hinges, it's dead easy to move. Even a child can move it. He says really to serve Hashem is not so easy. Sometimes it's hard, etc. But if you've got the hinge, meaning that if you motivate in your heart and your mind, says those are the 2 hinges of the person, then everything can be moved very smoothly. So Sheshes used to hang himself by the hinges to say that he swayed himself by the hinges, by the things that help him to get Torah. Furthermore, did he learn from himself? If not for Torah, the world will not survive. If not for Torah, the world will not exist. And so nevertheless, be koi with English, when the person learns originally Adat Daf he learns for himself, and then he later learns for the world. I'm actually a little bit disturbed, I don't know if I should say this, but I got a brochure for Gates at Kernel. And it's got a list of all the Rosh Hashivas, Magidei Shiur, and Mechanchim. Did any of you get it? Yes. And he says what they've done, 80 years of Magidei Shiur, I can't remember the expression. And I think they've done a huge disfavor to themselves or to others. The 80 years is because they've sat and learned for 80 years. When they learn Torah, the world becomes a better place, even if they never teach any Torah, and they never become Magidei Shiur, Mashgichim, Chanchim, all the rest. Because every moment, now we're learning Torah. Every moment we learn Torah, the world becomes a safer place, a better place. That's the whole idea. There's a famous verse from Chaim Volozhin that nowadays we have it even better. You know what? Nowadays you can have such a thing. If you've got it a light dimmer, where if you turn it to very low, the light is very strong, and you can turn it off or turn it on a bit. Right? It's quite a sticky kind of light to have. So it says like this, that if nobody would learn Torah, the world would go off. One person learns Torah, it's like you click it a tiny bit. But once you've got 100,000 people learning Torah, you're turning it the whole way. So each person's not shut is that when one person learns Torah, fine, the world exists and that's it. Every person that learns Torah makes the whole world a much safer place. The whole world is a brighter place. Chazdish quite a few letters about that. Okay. Omar Avashi. I want to do a little bit more because Friday is not brilliant for. We're going now into finish with our Gadata. We're going back now to the Halacha. Machlekes Rav Lezer and Yisroel. What's the Machlekes Rav Lezer and Yisroel? To do what? Cut off a wart or any Issa D'Rabbanan in order to be able to bring your Korban Pesach. Says Avashi, even according to Rabbi that holds that eating on Yom Tov is only a permission, it's not a mitzvah. Nevertheless, Isnei Pirchi can still ask the following question. You're allowed to cook, even though it's not a mitzvah. But you're not allowed to do it to our body. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov, even though it's the shus. And nevertheless, you're not allowed to do it to our body. Shabbos, you're not allowed to do shchita of a mitzvah. Is not a kavachim, but you're not allowed to do a shus. I mean, according to Rabbi Lezer, you say that cooking Yom Tov is a shus. Nevertheless, you're allowed to do it. So, but you're not allowed to do it to Rabbanon stam. So to Shabbos, you're allowed to do a shchita of mitzvah. You shouldn't be allowed to do Rabbanon. So what's the Mechtesa with Aleph? Rabbi Lezer shvus the mitzvah odiflei. A shvus of a mitzvah he holds is important, and therefore he holds that even though you're not allowed to do it to Rabbanon on Yom Tov, you're allowed to do it to Rabbanon of Korban Pesach because it helps you prepare for Korban Pesach. Tanya Rabbi Lezer. Umalim doch machshim mitzvah shalach shchita sa Shabbos savadei mitzvah. We said before you're allowed to scrape out the insides and you're allowed to do hektichav ve'voim. Now all those things you could in theory wait till after Shabbos. Yet we allow you to do it after Shabbos. We allow you to do it on Shabbos if you're already allowed to do the things after shechita on Shabbos. Kavachim things before, because the things before are even more important. Because if you don't cut off the wart, you won't be able to do the shechita. So it comes out that cutting off the wart is more important than cleaning out the insides. And if you're allowed to cut off the clean the insides, kavachim allowed to cut off the wart. He says slightly different from you. That shechita, you've already got rid of Shabbos, so to speak, by doing a shechita. The wood, you haven't yet done the malacha. So maybe you'll come to the common apostle. You did the Chilul Shabbos for the reason. Maybe by every shechita the zevach will be possible. First he set him the question that if you do shechita, you do cut off the first Rabbi Akiva said him, cut off the water, then you do shechita. Maybe the shechita will be possible. And it'll come out that you've done the Yisroel Rabbanon for no reason. So Rabbi Lezer said to him, if that's the case, don't do shechita either. So then Rabbi Lezer and Akiva realized it wasn't good. And then he said to him, no, I've got a different cheshbon. That once you've already shechted, you've already, so to speak, b'chal Shabbos, and therefore you're not to other Yisroel Rabbanon. Mashenk it's got off the word before you've done anything is awesome. Fake Tosfos studies question. That means Tosfos asked the kasha that you couldn't have done it yesterday. Because of the word you can. Because you could have already actually waited till after Shabbos, because that you could wait till after Shabbos. And nevertheless allowed to do it on Shabbos. So up to Heish Rabbi Akiva, we're continuing, and Mr. Shah, I'd very much like to get to the Mishnah tomorrow, which is on Samach Tes on Beis. It's about 8 lines to the bottom. If we don't, the Moshe Shabbos will start earlier. Mr. Shah, Moshe Shabbos 8 o'clock. It's not yet obviously Bolim clashing, is it? Not yet. Right. Once obviously Bolim clash, it will indeed be pushed off a few bit for a couple of weeks. Go to every week, but then eventually obviously Bolim stop, and then we'll get back to it. Not yet. And then tomorrow it's after Shachar. Shachar is 7:25.